Hello, everyone. I am Shayla Bennett, and welcome to 5 Minute Motivation. This time, this week, we have been talking about 5 keys to a successful life. And I have been really excited to cover this topic because it has really not only reminded me about what it takes to live a successful life, but things that I want to keep within my focus. So, to begin with, we defined what a successful life is. You can define success in a lot of ways, and success to you might be different. And I was very specific about how I define a successful life. A successful life is not just the acquisition of things, an acquisition of a position or an acquisition of property, though it can include those things. It does not exclude them. You can absolutely have a good life by those things. It doesn't exclude having them, but it's the quality of your life. How do you have a good, excellent quality of life, and how does that translate? When you are at the end of your life and you look back, how will you define what is a successful life? And I believe it will be defined by two principal words: your impact and your influence. How you impacted others and your influence, how you were able to influence others. So, today's key number 4, is how you guard your quality time. How you guard your quality time. Quality time is so important. It not only defines how you spend your time, but who you spend your time with and what you spend your time doing. Quality time to me is probably one of the most important keys because it really helps to bind all the other aspects of what a successful life looks like. So I have 3 primary aspects of what this looks like, how this translates into what makes up a successful life. First, a person who wants to have a successful life watches the company they keep. When I was a little girl, my mom would say, you want to watch the company you keep. You can't hang around everybody. You can't hang around anybody. You can't just go everywhere that somebody else goes. And as a little kid, you often think, well, why can't I do what everybody else is doing? Why can't I go where everybody else is going? And it is sometimes a little bit confusing. But as I got older, I really understood how important it was. Everything that everybody else did, I did not, I would say, qualify for. There were certain safeguards that my parents put into place that I could not do. There were certain things that certain places I couldn't go. And when I got to college, I had a funny story that I often tell kids that I mentor, especially kids that I'm talking to about college. When I went to college, I would hear kids say things like, oh, my parents don't care what I do. And when I first heard it, I thought, well, gosh, that must be great. You can get away with whatever you want to. And it sounded really amazing. And then I saw how it played out. When my parents would come to visit, everybody wanted to be around my parents. Everybody knew when my parents were coming. They wanted to come spend quality time with my parents. They wanted to come eat what my parents were eating. Like, everybody wanted to be around my parents. And I was like, don't you have your own parents? Like, get away. This is my time with my parents. But my parents were always really gracious and generous, and they made time for just about everybody that came around. This made for a great college experience for me and for everybody else. My parents came to visit, just all kinds of times. But what I learned from this was that their safeguard around me, even though it looked a little different and a little weird, it reminded me that just because I couldn't go everywhere and do anything, it looked like, when people said, I can do whatever I want to, my parents don't care. My parents being around me showed that my parents did, in fact, care. And there was a big difference, a big discrepancy for them in what caring looked like. So, quality time meant watching the company that I kept. There were certain people that I couldn't just hang around. And it didn't mean that these people were necessarily bad people. It just meant that the quality of my life, the direction that my life was going, it hindered certain things that I could do. And now I'm so grateful for the things that I didn't do because it allowed for things that I would be able to do later, and it protected me from things that would harm me later. So, number two, they protect their time. Now, this one I actually learned from someone I consider a mentor. And when she taught me this, this is actually what helped me with what I call a time map. And this is a gift that I gave during the ABLE webinar. This is where I really began to identify what time I did have from what time I didn't have, so I learned when to say yes to things and when to say no to things. This to me became really important because I learned that not every time somebody said let's, I needed to say go. It became to me the defining moment between everything that I was getting ready to do. I learned that there was a big difference between all the things that I could do and what I should do. So for me, it really became the guard of my time. I learned that there are times that you need to have a guard around your time. You needed to protect your time. You needed to have times that you say, well, let me think about that. And it became for me a protection because I would always be going and doing things and I would wear myself out, which kind of relates really easily into number three. You have a balanced life. A person who guards their time has a balanced life. They know how to rest and relax. I feel like a lot of times we are constantly on the go. We are always ripping and running. We never know how to take time for ourselves. We don't shut down, we don't relax, and we end up where we're never having some downtime and recuperation time. So we feel like, when do I just enjoy life? And we end up burned out. We don't want to live life burned out. We want to be able to enjoy our lives, enjoy the fruits of our labor. But when are you going to do that? If you're constantly on the go. In order to have a successful life, you're going to have to guard your quality time. Quality time is not every time, it's not all the time, but it is a great percentage of your time. So, in order to have a successful life, you're going to have to guard your quality time. You're going to have to spend quality time with quality people and those things that mean the most when they mean the most. This is 5 Minute Motivation. I hope that you will like, share, and tag this with other people, and you will encourage them to share this. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you. We will have a bonus episode tomorrow because I reneged a little bit on Tuesday. I didn't mean to, but I did have something come up. So I will have a bonus episode tomorrow to cover tip number 5, our success tip number 5. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye, guys.